For years now, Gundam fans have gone back and forth and debated on whether or not the original Mobile Suit Gundam series from 1979 should get a modern remake with revamped animation but maintaining the exact same story and the exact same character moments. And whilst this is a debate that will continue on for many more years, and I myself cannot provide a definitive answer to, I do want to chime in with my thoughts on whether or not Mobile Suit Gundam needs a remake. Before I dive into it though, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, head on down to the comments section below. I want you guys to chime in and let me know your thoughts on this question. Do you think that Mobile Suit Gundam, also known as 0079, needs a remake? Do you think it deserves a remake? Or are you pretty happy with the series as it is, or the movie trilogy? Now, to give a little bit of structure to this video, I've come up with like 4 points that I want to talk about. So we're going to talk about the animation, we're going to talk about the pacing, we're going to talk about accessibility, as in how easy is it to get a hold of. For the fourth one, we've got timelessness, as in is it dated, does it hold up, all that kind of stuff. So diving first into animation, this is the big one that everyone talks about, and I guess is the main reason as to why, or the main argument that can be had about why this series maybe does need a remake. Is the animation bad in this series? I initially would have said perhaps, but I've kind of come around to it a little bit more. Now, from a visual standpoint, it is obviously old. Like, it's a classic looking anime that came out in 1979 that did not have the biggest budget at the time. So there is inconsistencies within like design, within scaling especially. You look at like the Zaku's, for example, they don't look as menacing as they maybe could. Sometimes the look of them isn't always the most consistent. Again, the scaling, sometimes, you'll have a mobile suit which does not look quite as big as it probably actually should in the environment next to like some human characters. There's inconsistencies within the animation there. Those are more so, I guess, like kind of drawing inconsistencies, visual inconsistencies, but it's not badly animated because everything about animation is intentional. And there's some really fantastic character animations that people look over in this original series just because, again, it looks kind of old and it looks, classic in many ways and didn't have the biggest budget. So again, there's those inconsistencies, but there's so many like moments of characters, moments of action that are obviously very much intentional. One that I came across recently on Twitter is a little clip of when Amuro gets that picture with Matilda and like all the other white base crew, and then he kind of like jumps up in the air, super happy, and it's really fantastic character animation that again goes like overlooked because of some of the moments with the mobile suits where the animation is slightly inconsistent, or when people bring up like the Kukura's Domes Island episode, which is basically a forgotten episode from that series, and not including it doesn't really actually change all that much in the series anyway. So for the animation category, it's pretty much equal on both sides, 1 point for yes, 1 point for no. Moving on to pacing now, and this is another part that is pretty highly debated within any anime series, to be quite honest, especially within the Gundam space, because we've gone from having 50 episode series to then having like 24 episode series in The Witch from Mercury, and now with G-Quirks we've had a 12 episode series. So there's a lot of debate of whether that is the right direction to go. I think within the original Mobile Suit Gundam series, there is probably bits here and there that could be cut out just to streamline the story ever so slightly. However, we do have a movie trilogy that essentially does that. It kind of cuts bits out that actually are probably quite important to keep within the story. Quite significant parts. Now, of course, if you watch the movie trilogy, you get the overview of the story and such, but there are little nuances within the series that maybe you miss out on within the movie trilogy. I digress, though. I don't think that pacing is a problem in Mobile Suit Gundam. The series is, what, like 50? I think it is exactly 50 episodes long. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but it's like in the 48 to 50 episode kind of range. And I think it's all well spent. I think it's a series that is large in scale. Its story is big in scope, and therefore it needs, the appropriate amount of episodes. There's quite a lot of characters in there that need to be fleshed out. There's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of moments, a lot of story arcs and such that all need to be fleshed out. And if they did remake the original Gundam series now, it would probably be a 24 episode series, and that is not the way to go, because you cannot take 50 episodes and cram it down into 24 episodes. It would be stupidly rushed in a way that's very unnecessary, and I get why they're going for shorter stuff because attention spans have generally massively dropped, so you've got to have big action here, there, and everywhere. But I think that would just ruin this kind of series because, yes, it has plenty of action, but it does have moments and really entire episodes that are character focused, that are focused on the political dynamics of this, the 1 year war that's going on. I don't think pacing is a problem. So for this category, pacing, I'm giving an extra point to no. Moving on to accessibility now, and again, with many older series, this is something that really does need to be considered because there's a lot of series out there, or movies, or, like older anime in general, that are very difficult to get a hold of. There's a lot of mecha series out there that are really difficult to get a hold of. Even some pretty big ones, like the original Macross series, is not an easy series to find and watch. A lot of Macross has been put on Disney Plus. The original Macross series is not on there. So that's obviously an older, very iconic anime that's difficult to watch, anywhere. Ideon as well, very well known, very iconic work of Tomino as well, that as far as I'm aware is not super easily accessible. There might be an easier way to access it than the original Macross series, but again, there's a lot of older anime out there that's difficult to access, and that is a good reason to perhaps remake it, to make it more accessible. And I'm not talking accessible in terms of like dumbing it down or trying to make it work for a modern audience. I'm just talking in terms of being able to watch it like physically, like whether that's as a physical media copy, whether that's on streaming, whatever it may be. This is not a problem for the original Mobile Suit Gundam series. Out of all these classic mecha series, I would say this is one of the more widely available ones. I think in terms of anime pre-1980, the original Gundam series is probably the most easily accessible anime series that exists out there. Like, I can't think of anything pre-1980 that's as easy to get hold of as this series. It's not a problem here. The series is streaming on Crunchyroll. Movie trilogy was streaming on Netflix. I don't think it is anymore, but the original series, the movie trilogy, all very easy to get hold of on Blu-ray, even 4K. I've got the original trilogy on 4K. I've got the series on Blu-ray. It's not hard to get a hold of this thing. So again, this category gets another point for no. Moving on to our fourth and final category, we have timelessness. Now, this is quite an interesting one because I think if you make the argument for doing a remake of a series because it is not timeless, you are probably going to lose everything about that series, because in order to try and make it like thematically timeless, or maybe make it a little bit less outdated in terms of some of the jokes it has, some of the lines, some of the treatment of characters, and maybe treatment of certain genders and such, then you're probably going to lose a lot of what actually made that series what it was in the first place. I'm not saying that as either a positive or a negative. I'm just saying that as like a general fact. If you try to change something so drastically, it is not the same thing that it was before. When it comes to Mobile Suit Gundam, though, thematically, this thing holds up incredibly well. Like, it is timeless as a story. The themes that Tomino presents, the stuff that he was inspired by, his experiences, is all kind of timeless. Dealing with war, dealing with kind of the politics of like why one side fights the other and reasons for that. All that kind of thing is timeless. Like, history has shown that these things do not change. There will always be, some sort of other war that will come up, whether it's a large scale, substantial war like a World War One, World War Two, or something that's a little bit more modern, which, I'm not going to mention, I'm not going to dive into that too much, but we all know about the conflicts that are going on in the world, and there's always going to be an element of that. And there's ulterior motives beyond just like good guy, bad guy. There's a lot of complexity to all of that. And Gundam as a franchise explores that. It's probably why the franchise has lasted so well, because it usually does explore those similar kinds of ideas, or ideas that are close to that in some ways. So yeah, thematically this thing holds up incredibly well. Now, there's probably some outdated moments and character interactions, but let's face it, anything that is this old, being, getting to close to being like 50 years old, obviously it's just past being 45 years old, there's always going to be some minor things in there that are very much of the time, but at the end of the day, like, they're such minor things. As a complete package, this thing is timeless. Thematically speaking character-wise, I still think that, like, there's a lot this series does really well. It does hold up. Like, there's not much that is actually outdated in terms of its treatment of particular subjects. It does everything right, and I still think it's very much a timely and accessible series in terms of what it represents. So again, we've got another point in favor of no. So now that we've gone through all of those categories, where does my answer stand in regards to this question of whether the original Gundam series needs a remake? My answer is no. We've essentially had, for every single one of these categories, we've said no, We kind of said yes partially for the first one being animation, so it's a 4-1 lead in terms of not having a remake for 0079. There's always going to be a subsection of people that are just like not interested in watching it, and that's okay. I don't think remaking it would actually do anything other than just make it a little bit more flashy, and I feel like if you do that, you're going to lose a lot of what really makes that series stand out. And by making it super flashy and more exciting, maybe for a newer generation, you are going to lose a lot of those nuances. You are going to take the focus of the audience away from the messages, the characters, the story that's being told, the themes that are being presented, in favor of like, oh, look at these big giant robots fighting and such. And of course, that is a massive part of Gundam, and that's a very exciting part of Gundam. But at its core, that is not really what the series is about. It never has. Being about that, that's kind of just being a backdrop for the entertainment side of things. It's always been about the story being presented, the themes being presented, as is, any series out there really, but I think especially with Gundam, all of those themes, those ideas, they ring very true 45 years later. So, yeah, Mobile Suit Gundam 0079, Mobile Suit Gundam 1979, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really need a remake. That about wraps things up though. Before I get out of here, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. And like I said at the start of this video, head on down to the comment section below. Let me know your answer to this question. Does the original Mobile Suit Gundam series need a remake? Let me know if you're in favor of it having a remake, in favor of it not having a remake. Just let me know all that down in the comment section below. If you want to talk specifically about the categories that I've talked about in this video and your answers to some of those, also let me know. Thank you once again for tuning into Mecha Chat today. I'll see you guys next time.